Boldwood presents A Good Enough Mother, written by Sheila Norton and read by Gemma Lawrence. The moral right of the author has been asserted. This performance is owned by Boldwood. Chapter 1. It's bitterly cold, the sort of cold that takes your breath away, and I'm gasping as I run from the bus stop to my daughter's school. I'm not late today, not quite, but it seems that every other reception class parent is already waiting at the classroom door when I arrive. The door opens dead on the dot of 3:15, and I clutch my side, panting, as the teacher begins to let out one child at a time. For once, Mia doesn't have to be kept back in the classroom because I'm not there. It's difficult to get away from work at exactly 2:45 to make it here in time, and the buses aren't reliable. Mia goes to the after-school club 2 days a week, as well as going to the breakfast club, but I couldn't get a place for her every day, so I've had to drop some of the hours I worked at the shop when she used to be at nursery all day. Fortunately, Margaret, my boss, the elderly owner of Chapter's bookshop, is understanding. But part-time jobs are hard to find, and I can't afford to let her down. Mia's always tired when she comes out of school. It's a long day for a 4-year-old, even on days like this, when she's not staying for the extra couple of hours. It was different somehow at nursery, where the emphasis was just on play, and there was always a rest time. We're going to the nursery now, to pick up her baby brother. Archie's quite happy to be left there every day, so far. It's still quite a new experience for him. He started there when my maternity leave finished when he was a year old, in November, and we're only in January now. "When can we go home?" Mia's whining now, dragging her feet as we walk down the main road to the nursery. "As soon as we've got Archie." She sighs and smothers a yawn. She never tells me much about what she's been doing at school, but her teacher says she's fine, that she mixes all right with the other children and does whatever she's asked to do without any apparent problems, so I don't badger Mia for information. She just wants to relax when she's at home. Archie, on the other hand, is full of beans when we arrive at the nursery. He toddles a couple of steps across the room to me, smiling and shouting some of his few understandable words, before tumbling down abruptly on his padded bottom and laughing, holding out his arms to be lifted up. "Help up!" I carry him outside and put him in his buggy. Mia's complaining that her legs ache as we start the walk home, and I try to distract her with the promise of a drink and a biscuit when we're indoors. It's a short walk from here, and I'm at the bottom of the stairs up to my flat, just starting the process of folding the buggy, holding onto Archie's arm to stop him trying to crawl away as Mia skips up the stairs chanting 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, when a voice from behind me calls out breezily, "Well, hello! You must be our upstairs neighbour. I wondered when I'd bump into you." I turn around and nearly drop the buggy, blinking in shock at this woman, who's the same sort of age, somewhere in her early 50s, I guess, and has the same short dark hair, round face, and even the same sort of glasses as my mum. Except that my mum died when she was around that age. It gives me such a jolt that for a moment I can't talk. I let go of Archie's arm and he starts, on all fours, to follow his sister up the stairs. "You all right, love?" the woman asks, as I now drop the buggy while rushing to grab hold of Archie. "Can I help?" "Sorry, no, I'm fine, sorry," I gabble. Hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm Jess. I presume you've moved in at number 1. The flat downstairs from mine has been empty for a few weeks. It's been a relief, to be honest, not to have to keep reminding the children not to shout and telling Mia not to thump around on the floor. But it seems I now have a new neighbour. Yes, I'm Helen, she says, and comes over to me, taking hold of the folded buggy. Nice to meet you too, Jess. Go on, you take the baby. I'll carry the pushchair up for you. She gives me a smile. Must be hard, going up and down the stairs with them both. Oh, I've got used to it, I say, but thank you, Helen. I'm still feeling flummoxed by her likeness to my mum. Perhaps it's just that she took me by surprise, coming up behind me like that. But when I turned around, I thought for a minute it was Mum standing there. Ridiculous. She passed away when I was only 14, 8 years ago now. And I'm not in the habit of imagining every middle-aged woman I see as her come back to help me with the baby's buggy, for God's sake. By now, Mia is at the top of the stairs, kicking, and Archie, who's still in my arms, miffed at being stopped in his attempt to crawl up, is red in the face and yelling. I jiggle him as we go up, but he's wriggling to get down, shouting in frustration. Oh dear, says Helen, close behind me. You tired, little one? He stops yelling with a surprised hiccup and stares at her. We're at the top of the stairs now, and I put him down, searching in my coat pocket for my key, at the same time telling Mia to stop kicking the door. She pouts and, just for something to do in her impatience while I'm getting out the key, pinches Archie's nose. Mia, why did you do that? I demand crossly, as he promptly lets out another scream. He'll carry on now, I think grimly, until I've given him something to eat and drink to pacify him. But, just as I finally manage to open the front door, he stops wailing and gives a little chuckle. I look around and see Helen playing peekaboo with him behind her hands. He laughs again, and Mia looks round too, joining in the laughter. Archie likes that, she informs Helen. It always makes him laugh. That's good, Helen says. She smiles at me. It's hard when they're this age, isn't it? They haven't got the words to tell you what's bothering them. I feel like saying it's perfectly clear what's bothering Archie. His sister pinched him, but it's nice of her to be so friendly and helpful, so I just agree and thank her. No problem at all, she says. Have a nice evening, Jess. I don't see Helen again until the end of the week. Fridays are one of the days that Mia stays for after-school club, so I pick up Archie later from nursery too, and frankly, we've all had enough by the time we get home. Tempers are short, and I don't just mean the kids. We're probably making more noise than usual. Mia whining that she's tired, Archie grizzling, and me snapping at both of them to give me a minute. I'll have the key in the door in just 1 minute if they were both just, for God's sake, stop crying. Hello? A voice calls up the stairs. Oh, it's you, Jess. Sorry. I heard some commotion outside and I thought I'd just better check. No, don't apologise, love. I know what it's like. They're tired, aren't they? Go on, yes. Get them both inside in the warm. It's so cold out, isn't it? Poor things, you must all be frozen. I won't keep you. Thanks, I say. I wondered if you'd like to come and have coffee with me tomorrow morning, unless you work Saturdays. Just to get to know each other a little. With the children, of course. And your other half too, if he's here. My husband will be around. Oh, there's no other half, actually, I say, all in a rush. As if I'm embarrassed about it, which I'm not, actually. But, thank you, that would be nice, but I don't know. I mean, the kids can be really noisy and, well, you know. I'm trying, clumsily, to warn her that they'll probably spill their drinks, drop crumbs, break things, make a fuss, cry and generally cause havoc, but Helen just waves this aside, laughing. Oh, I'm not so old that I've forgotten what it's like having little ones around. I love children, Jess. I'll find some crayons and paper for them or something to amuse them. Don't worry. It'll be nice to see you all. I don't feel particularly reassured by the thought of my two little hooligans being let loose with crayons in someone else's flat. And while, on this second acquaintance, Helen doesn't look quite as much like my mum as I first thought, there's still enough of a resemblance, even in the way she smiles and the things she says, to make me feel a strange yearning to spend time with her. Perhaps I'm being silly. The lack of anyone to act as a grandparent figure to my kids hasn't bothered me up till now, but suddenly the realization of Mum missing out on being a grandma to Mia and Archie makes me ache inside. I suspect Helen would be offended to know I'm mentally labelling her as grandmother material. She's probably barely old enough, and I haven't even got to know her yet. But even so, I tell her yes, it would be lovely to come for coffee tomorrow morning. I'll just have to bring the kids home if they start causing trouble. On Friday evenings, I occasionally have a couple of my friends round for a catch-up. It's, frankly, what keeps me sane. I don't really have any mum friends. I haven't had time to get to know any of the other parents at the school. It's always just a quick hello at pick-up and drop-off times, as I'm often the last one there. And I'm conscious of the fact that most of them are probably quite a bit older than me. I'm not saying that's a problem. It's what happens if you have your children very young. But they all seem to know each other, or at least be at ease in each other's company. My own friends are like me, in their early 20s, so we have that in common, even if, these days, not a lot else. Oh, we laugh at the same things. We like the same music, watch the same movies. The one who doesn't go to bars or clubs, doesn't have boyfriends, or sex, or fun. Or really a life, not according to them, although they do say it sympathetically, and they do try to cheer me up. Sometimes I need cheering up, but I don't admit it. I tell them I'm fine, I love my life, and it's true most of the time. Some of the time. Well, I do love my kids, that's the thing. The only thing that matters. Do I sound a bit defensive? Probably. Do my friends always manage to cheer me up? Yes, they do. We lark around, laugh a lot. They usually bring a bottle of wine, although I never dare drink much of it in case the kids need me in the night. And we sometimes carpet dance like idiots, and it reminds me of the days before I met Callum, when I was free, like they are, to do what I wanted, when life was all about having fun. I was the bad girl then, the one who was 8 months pregnant when I left school. I thought I was a rebel. How ironic that feels now. I tell the girls this evening about my invitation to coffee with Helen tomorrow. She's probably lonely, says Jules. No, she's got a husband apparently. I haven't met him yet. But she says she likes children. She makes Mia and Archie laugh. I can't expect them to understand the importance of this. She reminds me of my mum, I add quietly. And then wish I hadn't, as it kills the conversation stone dead. They all look at each other awkwardly, apart from Lucy, who was my best friend at school, and gets me far more than the others do. She looks at me quietly for a minute, and then just reaches out and squeezes my hand. It'll be nice for you to have a friend here in the flats, she says with a smile. Get her to babysit if she likes kids so much, Miranda puts in, laughing. Then you can come out with us sometime. I shake my head. I haven't even got the energy, I tell her, and I don't want anyone else looking after my kids. She raises her eyebrows at me, and I just shrug. You wouldn't understand, I say. 5 minutes later, Archie starts crying, and suddenly it's time for the girls to leave. The bars in the town centre are calling. and I'm alone in the bedroom with my son, soothing him back to sleep. Of course they can't understand. Chapter 2. I don't work on Saturdays. I'm lucky that Margaret's so understanding. Although she's about 70, she still works in the shop herself. Well, she supervises. And as well as Tarek, who's the full-time manager, they have a student, a girl called Emma, who covers weekends. I've only met Emma when I've popped into the shop if I'm shopping in town. She's about 2 or 3 years younger than me, but our lives are so different. We could be from different planets. She's doing what I thought, at one time, I might do. A degree in English literature, which is why she likes working in the bookshop. She wants to be a journalist when she graduates, or maybe an English teacher, the sort of jobs my dad wanted for me, until I let him down. I don't work weekends, and Saturdays are normally my day for having a clean of the flat and then going food shopping, which is never much fun with the 2 kids. But today, at least, I'm doing something different. The housework is little more than a quick run-over with the Hoover, and by 10 o'clock I'm ready, with the children clean and as quietly behaved as I can manage, to go for coffee with my new neighbours. "Come in, love," says Helen as she opens the door for me, smiling widely. She laughs as Mia walks straight in and immediately begins to tell her the name of the toy elephant she's cuddling, Ellie, her favourite. "Go through to the living room," she goes on. "I've got the kettle on. Tea or coffee?" "Coffee would be great, thanks," I say. "White, please, no sugar." "Oh," I add, as I almost bump into a tall man with sandy-coloured hair who's just come out of the living room to greet us. "Hello, I'm Jess, and this is—" "Mia and Archie, I believe," he says, smiling at us all. "Helen's told me all about you. Pleased to meet you all. I'm Robert." "Nice to meet you too, Robert," I say. He seems as friendly as his wife. I start to relax a little, but I'm still watching the children like a hawk. The carpet looks new and is a lovely shade of cream. There's probably at least a 50% chance of Archie being sick on it or Mia spilling something. "What can I get the children to drink?" Helen calls from the kitchen, just as I'm thinking this. "Just water for Mia, please," I call back, before Mia can get the chance to utter the word squash. "And I've brought Archie some water in his sippy cup." "Very sensible. Water's much healthier for them than all those sugary drinks, isn't it?" Helen says as she comes in, bearing a tray which she puts down on a coffee table in the middle of the room. "They have one. And would you like to do some drawing while we talk to Mummy?" she asks Mia. "I've got crayons." "Oh, I brought her Lego with me," I say, indicating the box I've put down beside me. "I want to do crayons," Mia says firmly. "So does Archie. Can I have a chocolate biscuit, Mummy?" she adds, eyeing them eagerly. Well, I think a plain one would be—" "It's fine. I've got wet wipes for their fingers." Helen seems to have thought of everything. "And the crayons are those non-staining ones." "I hope you didn't buy them specially," I smile. "Have you got children yourselves?" "Grown up," she says abruptly, in a tone that makes me wary of asking any more questions. Perhaps they don't get on. I wonder if that's how my father answers anyone who asks him the same thing. Once Mia's had her biscuit, and Archie, held firmly on my lap, has eaten half of one and had his hands and face thoroughly wiped, Helen lays 2 giant pads of paper on the floor, scatters the crayons on a tray, and for a little while there's peace, although I'm ready to jump up at any moment if Archie gets up or crawls off with a crayon in his hand. I don't care how non-stained they might be. "So, who looks after these 2 while you're at work?" Helen asks. "Mia's at school. She started in September." I smile at her surprised expression. "She's 4.5 now. But in a way, it's more difficult than when she used to be at nursery like Archie is. I mean, it saves me money, of course. I still have to pay for breakfast club and after-school club, and then there's all the school holidays. Of course. Must be very difficult on your own. She sounds sympathetic, but I can't help it. I always get a bit defensive when people say those words, on your own. I know it's because of my dad's attitude, and not everyone is like him, thank God. But nevertheless, to my ears it always sounds critical. It's better than being with the wrong person, I say. Oh, definitely, she says at once. I left their father. I continue. Again, I know it's perhaps perverse of me, but I always like to make this clear. I don't want to be thought of by anyone as a poor, abandoned woman. But I also can't spell out, in front of Mia's flapping ears, the reasons why I left Callum. It was the only choice, as far as I was concerned. I was pregnant with Archie, and thank God I did. But I can't deny life's been difficult since. For me and for the children. Especially for Mia. Good for you, says Robert. I look round at him in surprise. He's nodding and smiling at me in approval. Thank you, I say. Unfortunately, my dad didn't see it that way. He barely speaks to me now. But then again, he'd already made it clear he was disappointed. No, more like disgusted with me for getting pregnant at 17. Oh dear, Helen says. That must be very hard for you. But surely your mum... I haven't got a mum anymore. Oh dear, she says again, looking distressed now. I'm so sorry. I have to take a moment before I can respond. Thank you. It was, tough losing her. I was only 14. Kind of went off the rails a bit afterwards. I should have done well at school. I was, one of the bright ones in all the top streams, supposed to be getting good A-levels and going to uni. But instead, well, here I am, single mum with 2 kids working in a shop. No wonder my dad's disappointed, really. No, Robert says. He should be proud of you, if you ask me, working and bringing up 2 lovely children on your own. Yes, agrees Helen. It's hard work, and without even having parents to support you. She shakes her head, pauses, and then goes on. What kind of shop do you work in? The bookshop in town, Chapters. I don't know it yet, she says. We've moved here from London, so we've still got to get to know the area. Do you enjoy working there? Yes. I smile. I could do worse, I know that. It's a nice job, even though the pay isn't that great. But with the extra I get in universal credit and the odd bit of child maintenance I've been able to squeeze out of Callum, I just about get by. I sigh and add, well, I would enjoy it if I wasn't always on edge, wondering if these 2 are okay and whether the bus will be on time for me to get back to Mia's school at 3:15. I could only get her a place at the after-school club for Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm hoping next year I'll be able to... I could always help, Helen says. If you're ever running late or if there's any problem, I'd be happy to mind the children. Look at them. They're no trouble, are they? They're not always like... They're both still engrossed in their crayoning. Mia having already completed 2 drawings, one of a house, the other of something with 4 legs and a head that could possibly be an elephant, and Archie concentrating on scribbling hard, in circles, in every colour crayon, sometimes one in each hand. They can be awful. I wouldn't inflict them on you. And anyway, Sorry, I shouldn't presume, but I guess you go to work yourselves. I mean, they're surely not old enough to be retired. And if they were wealthy enough not to have to work, they wouldn't be living here, in one of these flats, would they? I'm a delivery driver, Robert says, but I start work very early, when everyone's asleep, and I'm home by 10 most days. And I'm off work at the moment, Helen says, in a tone of voice that, as with the mention of the grown-up children, prevents me from asking any further questions. So, really, we have plenty of time to ourselves, and the odd bit of help, if you need it, wouldn't be any trouble at all. That's really kind, I say, feeling awkward now. I don't even know them properly yet, so there's no way I'd take them up on the offer to babysit for me. But honestly, I can manage fine. I'm sure you do, says Robert calmly. Thank you. I look back at the kids now, just in time to see Archie struggle to his feet, a red crayon still clutched in his chubby little fist, and totter his unsteady wide-legged gait towards me. I jump up and just manage to grab him before he overbalances. He's still not walking terribly well, I apologise, as I prise the crayon off him. He's better off crawling, really, but, well... His ambition exceeds his capability, Robert suggests, and I laugh. Yes, something like that. I like him. I like them both. They seem very kind. But I won't outstay my welcome on this first occasion. Archie's getting fidgety anyway, and I suspect from the nasty smell beginning to come from him that he needs changing. Come on, Mia, I say, thanking Helen and Robert for the coffee and biscuits. We've got to go shopping. And I promised to take you to the park today, didn't I? It's freezing cold out, and to be honest, I'd much rather stay indoors with a blanket over us and the TV on. But we're out of bread, vegetables, washing powder, and nearly everything else too. And it's free entertainment. It's even colder this evening. Archie's already in his cot, fast asleep, tired out from the excitement of the baby swings in the park. Mia's in her pyjamas, pink-skinned from a warm bath, and I've put the gas fire on while I read her a bedtime story. We've got a blanket over us both, and her eyes are almost closed as she listens to the familiar lines. These are the times I love most, when she or Archie are snuggled up to me, their soft little bodies close to mine, my face resting on their silky hair. I've always read to both of them. Even Archie will fall asleep in my arms as I turn the pages of one of his picture books, making up little stories from the pictures. Mia, too, likes it just as much when I make a story up as she does when I read one. She's caught the habit from me. She loves to concoct little stories of her own. They're often quite scary, too. I've heard that children do this to accustom themselves to being frightened, to face their own fears. Maybe that's true, but I prefer the happy stories she dreams up, about beautiful princesses living in castles. I don't suppose any mother wants to think about their child being scared. As I finish tonight's story and carry Mia, now on the point of sleep, into her bedroom, I make the promise to myself that I make every evening when both children are tucked safe and secure in their beds. I promise that if I do nothing else in this life, I will make sure that nothing and nobody will ever hurt them. Chapter 3. January's been a long month, and I'm desperate for my month's wages to be paid into my account. I've been too worried about stretching the budget, paying the bills and feeding the kids to think about much else for the last week or so. And I've only seen Helen or Robert occasionally. As I'm rushing in or out, on my way to or from work and school and the nursery, they seem very quiet, considering they're at home nearly all the time. Today is one of the few occasions that I'll speak to my dad. It's his birthday, and however little he seems to care about me these days, however much he ignores me and has nothing to do with the children, I still feel this weird obligation to call him on his birthday, as well as on Christmas Day, when I'm never invited, and on the anniversary of Mum's passing. I don't really know why I put myself through it. It's always the same. It always makes me cry. And I hardly ever cry. Squaring my shoulders, as my mum used to say, and getting on with things. But talking to Dad somehow manages to break me. I wait till both children are asleep. And even now I'm giving myself a stern talking to. Why not forget it this year? Why feel any duty towards him? What's the point? But I can't. Somehow I just can't stop myself from dialing his number. "Hello," he says in a bored, resigned tone. "Happy birthday, Dad. How are you?" "How do you think I am?" he snaps. "The same as ever. What's the point of a birthday when there's nothing to celebrate?" "Oh, come on." I try to sound cheery. "You've still got your health, a good job, a nice home." He's silent, and suddenly I feel so frustrated I'm almost angry. "What do you think Mum would say if she could hear you talking like that?" "Don't you dare bring your mother into this," he retorts. "She'd turn in her grave if she knew how you've ended up, how you've let me down, let her down, living in squalor with your two brats when you should have been—" I end the call, cutting him off. I'm shaking. At least for once I'm not crying. I'm too angry. How dare he call his grandchildren brats? He's never even met them. How dare he say I'm living in squalor just because I'm in a poky little rental flat, which I'm lucky to have, and he's never even seen. And wouldn't you think, if he really thought things were that bad for me, his only child, he'd have done something, anything to help me? He's a bank manager. He lives on his own, in a big detached house, drives a big fancy car, and of course he's lonely. I get that, but that's his own fault. I don't understand him, I really don't. I know he's disappointed in me. He's told me that often enough, together with accusing me of being useless, not fit to raise children, even though he knows nothing whatsoever about what kind of a mother I am. But for God's sake, I just cannot imagine turning my back on either of my kids, ever, no matter what they do. It's unnatural. It's unforgivable. In fact, that's what I need to do, I decide. From now on, I won't forgive him. I'll stop wondering if he's okay, if he's still depressed, still grieving. What's wrong with him? I'll just give up. I'm still, internally, steaming with anger the next morning, going over and over all the horrible things Dad said to me during the years since I got pregnant with Mia. I should just put it behind me and get on with my life, but I know his cruel comments have undermined my confidence. If your only close relative tells you you're a failure, stupid, that you've wasted your life and aren't fit to look after your children, however much you try to ignore it, some of it sticks. I didn't have a mum to tell me how to be a mother. I had to follow my instincts. My kids seem happy enough, on the whole, so I tried to tell myself I must be doing okay. But what if I'm not? What if my dad's right, and I'm too young, too stupid, not capable of bringing them up properly? How will I ever know? By the time we're all home again this afternoon, I feel a bit better. Mia's in a good mood because she was chosen to sing a little song in class today, and she's such an extrovert, this made her day. She keeps singing it to me, at the top of her voice, and Archie lies on the floor covering his ears, making me laugh. I go out to the kitchen to put some washing on, make myself a cup of tea and get the children a biscuit each, but by the time I've boiled the kettle, the washing machine still hasn't started. I check I've programmed it right, turn it off and on again. Nothing. It's old, but it's always been reliable. Never done this before. I feel like kicking it, but somehow restrain myself. I've got a whole load of clothes and towels to wash. We won't manage till the weekend unless I can get them clean and dry. Shit, I whisper, so that Mia can't hear me. What the... I'm going to have to take it all to the laundrette. I can't call anyone in to see if it can be fixed, not until I've been paid at the end of the week anyway. Crossly, I pull out all the dirty laundry and bundle it into a bag. Sorry, Mia, finish your biscuit, I tell her. We've got to go out. Oh, but I want to watch TV, she says, pouting. You can when we get back. Bring something to play with. Where are we going? She demands truculently. As I pass her coat and force a struggling, crying Archie back into his waterproof pram suit. The laundrette. Why? I don't want to. Mia, it's not always about what you want to do, okay? I snap. Get your coat and boots on now. She's in a temper now, of course, throwing her boots across the room. I have to close my eyes and try to calm myself, because, as usual when she's behaving like this, I could so easily get hold of her and shake her. But I won't. I'm determined not to be the type of parent my dad obviously thinks I am. Instead, I hold her still, push her feet into her boots and her arms into her coat, and finally, with both of them crying, I'm ready to go back out. I bump into Helen at the bottom of the stairs. Oh, hello, she says, smiling. And then, seeing the red, angry, tear-streaked faces on both of my kids, says, Oh dear, what's all this about then? Mia stops crying abruptly and stares at her feet, embarrassed. My washing machine's not working, I tell her, hoping she's not going to hold me up by wanting a chat right now. So I've got to go to the laundrette. What a nuisance for you. And with the little ones tired out after they've just got home, she says, and then adds suddenly, What am I thinking? You can bring your washing in and put it in my machine. Come on, just shove it in and I'll let you know when it's finished. I start to refuse, to be polite, tell her I wouldn't want to put her to the trouble, but before I can get the words out, she's going on. It's no trouble. I can put it through the dryer too, so it's all ready for you to put away. I haven't got a dryer. The thought of having all this laundry returned to me, not only washed, but warm and dry too, instead of having to hang it over the airer, steaming in front of the gas fire, suddenly seems irresistible. It would have been the only benefit of taking it to the laundrette, but Helen's offer obviously has the added bonus of me not having to sit there, waiting for it with two disgruntled children. Are you sure? I say. I mean, it's very kind of you, but absolutely sure. Come on, come in, choose what program you want, and tell me how long to dry it all for. There, Mia. See, that's a much prettier face now you're smiling. I wonder if I've still got some of those chocolate biscuits in my tin. They've just had I begin, but then stop myself and smile. She's being kind. I'm grateful. Thank you, I say instead, and we troop into her flat behind her. Them's my knickers, Mia announces to Helen as I'm throwing clothes into her machine. That's Archie's jumper. He was sick down it. That's Mummy's bra and Mummy's knickers. All right, Mia, I say, laughing. I feel almost giddy with relief now that the prospect of the walk in the rain and the wait in the laundrette has faded away. Sit down with that biscuit, please, and keep an eye on Archie. Crumbs? Now then, Helen says, as she slams the door of the washing machine shut and presses the start button. Would you like me to ask Robert to come and have a look at your machine? He's no expert, but he's quite handy with mechanical things. He might be able to sort it out. Oh, I don't want him to go to any trouble, I say. But inside I'm thinking, yes, I might not have to pay a repairman. I might not have to go without a washing machine until I can somehow find the money for a new one. Don't be silly, he won't mind at all. Robert! She calls into their living room. Jess's washing machine's not working. Go back with her and have a look at it for her, would you? I hear the TV being turned off, and Robert comes out, saying hello to us all and agreeing that of course he'll see if he can help. It might only be something minor. He actually seems almost eager at the prospect of being able to offer me some assistance. As he follows me back up the stairs, holding Mia's hand while I carry Archie, I find myself feeling weak with some emotion I can't even identify, and the sudden thought that comes into my head: I've got friends, nice friends who seem to care about me, who want to help me. It gives me this really odd sense of relief, as if I can imagine the load of my anxieties suddenly feeling lighter. A woman who reminds me of my mum. A man who seems absolutely nothing like my dad. Has my luck finally changed? Just a little bit. Chapter 4. The bus is late again today. It always seems to happen on the days that Mia isn't at after-school club. I jump off at my stop and hurtle down the road to the school, panting, my scarf flying behind me in the wind. Mia's been held back to wait for me in the classroom with her teacher. She gives me a filthy look. Mia, not the teacher, Mrs. Green, who's reasonably understanding as long as I'm not ridiculously late. I'm so sorry, I gasp, hanging on to the classroom door while I try to get my breath back. The bus. You're always late, Mummy, Mia accuses me. Well, at least Mummy's here now, Mrs. Green tells me. Don't forget your reading book, will you? I don't forget. Mummy forgets, she says, making me feel even worse. Well, Mia, I think you could try to remember it yourself, couldn't you, to help Mummy, Mrs. Green says gently. Thank you, dear teacher. But I still feel guilty. We collect Archie from the nursery, and we're halfway home when I see Helen walking towards us on the other side of the road. I call out hello to her, and she crosses the road to talk to us. Aren't you a bit later than usual? She says, making me wonder if she sits at her window watching us coming and going. A little bit. The bus was late, I say. They're so unreliable. Must be stressful for you, waiting for it and then having to rush to pick up the children, she says, looking at me sympathetically. Honestly, I don't know why you don't take my phone number. If the bus is late, you can just call me, and I'll pop down to the school for you, and the nursery, she adds, smiling down at both the children. You wouldn't mind me meeting you from school occasionally, would you, Mia? If Mummy's held up? Mia looks thoughtful. Would we come back to your flat? Would you give us chocolate biscuits and crayons? Mia! I exclaim. It's rude to ask for things. But Helen's laughing. I expect I'd be able to provide those. But it would probably only be for a little while, till Mummy gets home. What do you think? She adds to me. It would save you all this worry. She's already offered this several times, and I know it makes sense to accept, but I've held back so far, not wanting to take advantage of how kind she and Robert have been. Fixing my washing machine was just the first of the little jobs he's done for me during the last couple of weeks. He fixed the handle on my front door that kept jamming, mended one of Mia's toys that I thought was beyond repair, and has helped me up the stairs with the buggy on several occasions. I'm used to doing it myself, obviously. It isn't that heavy, but it's just the kindness of it that I appreciate. The thing is, I tell Helen now, I'd have to give the school and the nursery your name and phone number if you're going to pick the kids up, even if it's occasionally, even if it's just once. And the nursery even insists on a photo of you to make sure they recognise you. And that's absolutely right and proper, of course. she says firmly. Why don't I walk down there with you tomorrow morning so you can show me where and you can introduce me, if you like, and give them my details? Are you really sure you don't mind? It would only be very occasionally, in an emergency, but of course I don't mind. It will save you all that anxiety and rushing. I'll see you in the morning then. I'm just off to the shop. I forgot a couple of things this morning. Anything I can get you? No, we're fine, thanks. I smile at her. Thanks, Helen. I do appreciate it. The weather's so awful over the weekend that Helen knocks and offers me the use of her tumble dryer again. I must admit the timing's perfect, as I've just finished the biggest wash load of the week, including all our bed linen. I've stopped trying so hard now to refuse her offers of kindness, as I'm starting to think she and Robert are probably a bit lonely as well as being bored, and it seems to give them pleasure to help me out. Why don't you bring the children in and have a coffee and a chat while it's all drying? She suggests. I've been planning to do some housework, but Archie's cutting some back teeth and has been fractious after a bad night, and Mia's been difficult too because she's fed up, so the thought of sitting down for an hour or so and just relaxing is too tempting to refuse. Can we have the crayons again? Mia asks, as soon as we've got through Helen's front door. She glances at me, and I can sense the effort with which she stops herself also asking about biscuits. Robert's gone into town this morning, apparently, to do some shopping, and once we're settled with our coffee, and once Archie's finally stopped grizzling, and I've persuaded him not to chew on the crayons, it's quiet in Helen's lovely warm lounge. I'm worried that I might actually doze off after the sleepless night with Archie, so I sit up straight and make an effort at conversation. Whereabouts do your grown-up children live? I ask. And when Helen hesitates for a moment, I wonder again if, as I suspected when she first mentioned them, there's been some kind of falling out in the family. Our daughter lives in Scotland, she says eventually, so we don't see her too often. And our son is at college, in America. Oh, I see. You must miss them both a lot. Yes, she says flatly. Her customary smile has dropped, and she's staring ahead, looking quite desolate. It must be difficult, I say, feeling a little awkward now as she hasn't expanded on this brief response, or what the son's studying. No indication of whether there's a partner or son-in-law. I go on, quickly, to talk about my own situation instead, telling her that I'm an only child, without any family apart from my children. And my dad. And you said you're not on speaking terms with him. She remembers. That's very sad. Does he at least see the children sometimes? No. No, he's never seen them. And he never sees me. And that's his decision, not mine, I say, slightly more harshly than I mean to. I called him the other day because it was his birthday, but he just started insulting me again and calling the children brats, so I'm not going to bother again. How could he not want to see his own grandchildren? What a silly man. He's the one losing out. And to call them brats, that's just awful. They're lovely children. You should be proud of them. Oh, thank you, Helen. I have to swallow a lump in my throat. I can't remember anyone ever saying that to me before. You've no idea what that means to me. I look away, feeling a little bit silly for what I'm about to say, but I turn back to say it anyway. I haven't told you this, but you remind me so much of my mum. There's a few seconds pause, where we're both just sitting looking at each other. And then she suddenly reaches out her arms and gives me a hug. And I know this is silly, but I kind of feel like I've come home. Chapter 5. It's not long before the first occasion occurs when I need to call Helen to pick up the children for me. Today the bus I normally catch isn't just late, it's failed to turn up at all, and there's such a crowd of frustrated people waiting for it, or the next one, that I realise I might not be able to get on, even when it does arrive. Helen answers my call straight away, as if she's been sitting in her living room just waiting for the phone to ring. Perhaps she has.